Ons gesels vanmôre met Jan Creamer. Sy is die president van die organisasie Animal Defenders International. En ons gaan met haar gesels oor die feit dat hulle saam met Qatar lugrederye, Qatar Airways, leeu's gered het uit Kuwait uit onlangs. En dit is 'n verskriklik interessante storie. Maar eers, kom ons praat eers en vind uit wat is Animal Defenders International. Good morning, Jan.
Good morning.
It's lovely chatting to you. You're in the UK. Apparently, it's just as cold there as it is here. But it's lovely chatting to you this early morning. Before we start, Animal Defenders International. Let's first find out, what is Animal Defenders International?
Animal Defenders International campaigns for animals around the world to protect them from trafficking, protect animals in captivity. We campaign for laws to protect animals. And the story of the Kuwait animals is exactly our kind of story, in that it's illegal to have lions as pets in Kuwait, but of course people do.
Yeah.
And so the illegal wildlife trade, as you know, is huge all over the world. And people, if they've got the money, they will buy these animals. And of course, then the owners realize, you know, after a few months, a year, these animals are too big, too strong, they can't feed them, they don't have the right facilities for them. And what's been happening a lot of the time in Kuwait, because the animals are illegal, people let them loose in the streets or they take them out to the desert.
Wow.
So Kuwait Zoo has been going and collecting the animals when they're reported and taking them into the zoo to care for them until they can find homes. And so they had 6 needing homes, and we said, well, you know, they should come back to the land of their ancestors. They should come back to South Africa. This should be our message to people. You know, if you want to come and see animals in the wild, come to South Africa. Come see the animals in the wild, you know, take photos, take video, enjoy them in their natural habitat. So it's a good message in that way, and it helps Kuwait enforce the law.
That is shocking. We all know about the terrible scourge of photo cubs, lion photo cubs that people use for photography. And take a photograph with my pretty dosed up little lion so you can pet him. It's not a great practice, and this ends in these animals being taken into people's homes. Where did you find in Kuwait? Where in Kuwait did you find these animals? Were all of them in the desert? Was some left? I can't believe they leave them in the street.
They leave them everywhere. I think of the animals that we've picked up, I think it's just the one, Mahib, the older lion. He was surrendered by his owner. And a slightly crazy story that the guy put Mahib in his car and drove him to the zoo. Just insane stories. But, you know, people, because they think they're going to get prosecuted, they're kind of, you know, taking them out at night and letting them loose, and it's somebody else's problem. So it's a very common thing we find. We work in the US. We have a US operation. People in the US still get these cats when they're cubs, when they're not supposed to. It's now illegal in the US. And it is a worldwide problem, but certainly something where in South Africa, we can show people how these animals should be living.
I find it mind-boggling that you think you can drive around with a lion in the back of a seat. But maybe that is because we are from here and we have that education and understanding about these animals growing up here. Do you think it's also got to do with, like, educating people more? Like, are there some people that perhaps really just don't realize that what cubs become? Could that be possible?
Yes, absolutely possible. I mean, people see the cubs when they're small, and they think, you know, this is a good, exciting pet. And, you know, for some people, it's kind of a slightly macho thing. You know, look what I have.
Yeah.
For my pet, and then realize it's too big for them. But something that our vet, Dr. Peter Caldwell from Pretoria, he came with us to Kuwait to see them. And something that's very sad is that he said looking at them, he can see what they're doing to try to make them smaller and smaller. And what they're doing is they're trying to create almost like a toy lion. These illegal wildlife traders are trying, they put them as cubs, they put them in the dark, they don't give them enough food, they don't allow them to develop properly, and they're trying to get them smaller and smaller, a completely unnatural creature. And again, I think this rescue has really helped to highlight these issues. It's brought attention to these issues. And obviously for these 6, they've walked into a world they never knew existed. They hadn't walked on grass. They hadn't seen all of the wildlife around them, all of the native wildlife, the small animals, you know, the mongoose, squirrels, hares, rabbits, all kinds. And they're just wide-eyed with wonder at what the real world is like for them now.
These animals were brought in back to South Africa with the help of Qatar Airways. It must have been quite an arduous journey, planning it. The logistics must have been very challenging.
Very challenging. The whole thing took about 72 hours. The kind of loading and the moving to the airport, the preparation, and the flight itself. I mean, Qatar Airways have been wonderful. They've been so good to us, and this is the second or third, I think, big rescue that they've done with us. And you know, their point about this kind of program is that, you know, it's about social responsibility. It's about helping in the world, helping these animals, and, you know, educating people by doing something practical. It's been an amazing relationship we've had with them, and we do hope that they're going to do more in the future. There are always going to be animals in trouble around the world. We do need to educate people, and a story like this makes people think. You know, they see the animals, they see that they are emotional, intelligent individuals. You know, these animals in the wild, they have a social life. They have a social structure. They care about their families. They're highly intelligent. And, you know, people forget that these animals recognize you forever. Once you get to know them, they know who you are. They'll always remember you. And I think that sometimes we forget that we're not the only species that have a memory and have emotions and love our families. It's the same with these animals.
Sure. I'm just looking at those eyes, and you can see a broken animal. That's devastating to see. But tell us more about the wildlife sanctuary that they are in now. Now we have to talk about the hope. We have to talk about the good work that you've done at ADI.
Absolutely. The ADI Wildlife Sanctuary actually came about because we were rescuing animals principally in Latin America. Animals trafficked from Africa over to the US and then Latin America were taken into circuses. And eventually the governments all agreed in many Latin American countries now that these animals don't belong in circuses. It's cruel to keep them there. And they've banned the animals from circuses. And then their next problem was, okay, well, what do we do with the animals? So we've been bringing over to South Africa large numbers of these animals. They can never go back into the wild. They're inbred. They've had contact with humans. They pick up human diseases, which then mutate. So you can't put them into the wild, you know, and their toes are chopped off. Their toes on their front feet are cut off to stop the claws growing. Their teeth are broken. You know, when someone tries to control a lion in a circus, they hit them with an iron bar in the face. That cracks their teeth. And so we see a lot of that kind of damage. So what they can do is we bring them to the ADI Wildlife Sanctuary in South Africa. and we're building an education centre there. And these lions and the tigers can become ambassadors. Children can come, see the animals in a safe place. There's no touching, no going near them. You know, they're free now to enjoy their space. They're secure in their space. But people can learn about the animals and, learn about wildlife trafficking and learn about how we should be leaving these animals in the protected wild.
Yeah, absolutely. I want to almost say, don't be ridiculous. Don't keep an animal like that. Get yourself a cat or a dog. You don't need to have a lion. So that really is the basics of it. And leave them in the wild. They're beautiful animals. Let's protect them. And it's so nice to hear you speak about the hope that there is. How are these animals doing? Are they doing well at the moment?
Well, these 6 from Kuwait are doing extremely well. So they've been home in Africa for about 3 weeks. They had a couple of weeks in quarantine, and now they've moved into their larger enclosures. The two big boys, I think of them, they're like two kind of young teenage boys, Suja and Saham, are strutting about their enclosure. They've got 4 acres, and you can only describe that. Their first walkout, that was a strut. So that male lion is in there, and he's waiting to come out, and he's blossoming. They're very funny. They're kind of typical young boys. And Mahib, the older one, he's a bit more cautious. He's 4 years, and he's kind of quietly getting used to it. They're starting to find their roar, because of course they were all quiet, which is the thing we noticed at first. But now they've heard the other lions, and they're starting to join in. And the boy and the girl, Saif and W, are very energetic. They're really enjoying it. But we've built enclosures where we can move them around from space to space, so they'll get to be in each other's spaces in a safe way. And that gets them used to each other. And if it is possible for us to create a group of, say, Mahib and W and Aziza, and that little group, we hope we can make a kind of pride out of them. We'll see how it goes. It's entirely up to them. They decide whether they want to be together or not.
Jan, thank you so much for the work you guys are doing. It's wonderful hearing that these animals are adapting well to their environment. And what a lovely story from tragic beginnings. Thank you so much, Jan, for the work you're doing at Animal Defenders International.
Thank you so much.
Nou ja, 'n leeu is nie veronderstel om in jou huis te wees nie. Moenie 'n palooka wees nie, my maskas. Nou ja, dis dan Jan Creamer, sy is die president van Animal Defenders International, oor die 6 leeu's wat hulle uit Kuwait uitgered het, en daar's nog baie ander diere, veral sirkusdiere wat hulle op hierdie stadium rehabiliteer by 'n rehabilitasiesentrum in Suid-Afrika. Goeie werk, hoop. Ons like it baie.